The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead like angry wasps. As Marcus Williams sat alone in the empty boardroom at 2:47 a.m., his head buried in his hands, the mahogany table that had witnessed countless million-dollar deals now reflected only the hollow shell of a man who had everything and nothing all at once. His company, Technovo Industries, was hemorrhaging money faster than a punctured artery, and in 6 hours, he would have to face the board of directors with news that would likely end his career. For 3 grueling months, 30 of the brightest minds money could buy had paraded through these same doors. Mid-graduates, Harvard MBS, consultants from McKinsey and Boston Consulting Group, all armed with PowerPoint presentations thick enough to stop bullets and price tags. That made his accountant weep. Each promised to be the savior who would resurrect his dying company, yet each walked away shaking their heads, leaving behind nothing but astronomical invoices and the bitter taste of failure. The problem seemed insurmountable. Technovo's revolutionary AI system, designed to revolutionize healthcare diagnostics, had developed a catastrophic flaw. Instead of detecting diseases with 99.7% accuracy as promised, it was misdiagnosing patients at an alarming rate. Lawsuits were piling up like autumn leaves, regulatory agencies were circling like vultures, and the media had already written their obituary. Tech giants AI gone rogue, screamed the headlines. When artificial intelligence becomes artificially dangerous, Marcus had built this company from nothing, sleeping on office couches and surviving on vending machine coffee for 2 years straight. He had mortgaged his house, emptied his savings, and convinced friends and family to invest their futures in his dream. Now, watching it crumble felt like watching his own child slowly die, and there wasn't a damn thing he could do about it. The 31st expert had just left that evening, Dr. Harrison Blackwood from Stanford's AI Institute, shaking his head with the same condescending smile that had become all too familiar. "I'm afraid your code is fundamentally flawed," he had declared, adjusting his designer glasses with practiced superiority. "The neural network architecture is beyond salvage. You'd be better off starting from scratch." The laughter that followed from his team still echoed in Marcus's ears like a death knell. As Marcus sat there contemplating the ruins of his life's work, he heard the gentle squeak of wheels rolling down the corridor. The sound was as familiar as his own heartbeat. It belonged to Jose Martinez, the night janitor who had been quietly cleaning these halls for the past 8 years. Jose was a man most people looked through rather than at, invisible in the way that essential people often become in the corporate world. "Evening, Mr. Williams," Jose said softly, poking his head through the doorway his weathered face carried, the kind of lines that spoke of hard work and harder times. But his eyes held a warmth that seemed to light up the sterile corporate environment. "You're here late again." Marcus looked up, managing a weak smile. Jose was probably the only person in the building who still treated him like a human being, rather than a failure or a paycheck. "Hey, Jose." "Yeah, just trying to figure some things out." Jose wheeled his cart into the room and began his methodical cleaning routine, moving with the quiet efficiency of someone who took pride in work others might consider menial. "You know," he said, spraying the conference table with cleaner, "my daughter Maria, she's been following your company in the news." Marcus felt his stomach clench. Even the janitor's family knew about his spectacular failure. "I'm sorry about that, Jose. I know it's not been great press lately, actually," Jose continued, carefully wiping down each chair. "She's excited about it. She's studying computer science at community college, wants to work with AI someday. She says what you're trying to do, helping doctors save lives, that's real important work." The simple faith in Jose's voice almost broke Marcus completely. Here was a man who cleaned up after others for a living, whose daughter was struggling through community college on student loans and part-time jobs, and yet he spoke about Marcus's work with more genuine respect than any of the high-priced consultants ever had. "I appreciate that, Jose, but I'm afraid we might not be around much longer for Maria to join." Marcus's voice cracked slightly. "The AI system, it's broken beyond repair, at least. That's what every expert tells me." Jose paused in his cleaning, considering this. "You know, Mr. Williams, before I came to America, I fixed cars back in El Salvador. Old cars, beaten up. Everyone said they were junk. But sometimes," he smiled, his eyes crinkling at the corners, "sometimes the problem isn't the engine. Sometimes it's just that nobody looked at the right place. This isn't a car engine, Jose. This is quantum-level programming that requires advanced degrees just to understand." "Maybe," Jose said, continuing his work. But problems are problems, no, big or small. They all have solutions. You just got to look with fresh eyes. He finished wiping the table and moved toward the whiteboard where remnants of the day's failed brainstorming session still lingered in faded marker. Mind if I take a look at this thing that's giving you trouble? Marcus almost laughed, but something in Jose's earnest expression stopped him. This man had never shown him anything but kindness and respect. The least he could do was return the favor. Sure, Jose. Why not? 30 PhDs couldn't crack it, but maybe. He pulled up the code on his laptop. The same lines that had been scrutinized by the world's leading experts for months. Thousands of lines of complex algorithms scrolled across the screen. A digital labyrinth that represented years of work and millions of dollars in research. Jose set down his cleaning supplies and approached the laptop with the same careful attention he brought to everything else. He studied the screen for several minutes, occasionally asking Marcus to explain certain functions in simple terms. Unlike the experts who had peppered their observations with jargon and condescension, Jose listened with genuine curiosity, asking questions that were surprisingly insightful. This part here, Jose said, pointing to a section of code that dealt with data validation. It looks like it's checking the patient information. Yes, that's right. It verifies that the input data is clean and properly formatted before analysis. Jose nodded slowly, then scrolled through more sections, his calloused finger tracing patterns on the screen. And this section, it's like the brain of the system, where it makes decisions. Exactly. That's the neural network core. It processes the medical data and generates diagnostic probabilities. For nearly an hour, Jose studied the system, with the patience of someone accustomed to solving problems through careful observation, rather than flashy theories. Marcus found himself explaining his life's work to a janitor at 3 in the morning, and somehow, it felt more meaningful than any of the presentations he had given to investors or experts. Finally, Jose leaned back and was quiet for a long moment. Then, with the diffidence of someone not used to speaking up in corporate settings, he said, "Mr. Williams, I think maybe I see something. Would it be okay if I tried typing something?" Marcus hesitated for just a moment. What could it hurt? Go ahead, Jose. Jose positioned his hands over the keyboard with surprising familiarity, then began typing with careful, to-finger precision. What he wrote was elegant in its simplicity. If data source confidence less than 0.95 return insufficient data for diagnosis. Flag for human equals true. 6 lines of code. That was it. 6 lines that somehow, in their beautiful simplicity, addressed the fundamental flaw that 30 experts had missed entirely. Marcus stared at the screen, his mind racing. Jose, this is... He began running mental simulations of how this simple addition would affect the system's behavior. This tells the AI to admit when it's not certain, instead of forcing a diagnosis anyway. See? Jose nodded, like when my grandson asks me something I don't know. I don't guess and maybe tell him wrong thing. I say, Mio, let's find out together. Maybe the machine should do the same. No? The profound wisdom of this simple observation hit Marcus like a physical blow. Every expert had focused on making the AI smarter, more complex, more sophisticated. But Jose had identified the real problem. The AI needed to know when to admit it didn't know enough to be certain. In healthcare, false confidence was deadlier than uncertainty. A doctor who said, "I'm not sure, let's run more tests," could save a life. An AI that guessed wrong could end one. Marcus immediately began implementing Jose's solution, his fingers flying across the keyboard as he integrated the simple but revolutionary logic into the existing system. He ran simulation after simulation, watching as the diagnostic accuracy didn't just improve, it became extraordinary. The AI now flagged uncertain cases for human review, creating a collaborative system between artificial and human intelligence. Instead of trying to replace one with the other. By dawn, they had transformed Technivo's failing AI into something unprecedented, an artificial intelligence that was smart enough to know its own limitations. When the board meeting convened at 9 a.m., Marcus walked into that same conference room with Jose by his side. The board members looked confused, then skeptical, then increasingly amazed as Marcus demonstrated the transformed system. The AI that had been a catastrophic liability 12 hours earlier was now performing with accuracy rates that exceeded every benchmark in